and welcome to the January 28, 2025 meeting of the Public Works Committee. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed in silent mode. I don't see anyone recording this meeting. Okay, I'm Councilor Schultz. I'm filling in for Councilor Cruz, Councilor Cruz, who's the former chairperson of this committee, and he's now moved on to to chair the Finance Committee, but he's still a member of the committee.
Thank you, Councilor.
So I'm joined by not only him, but also Councilor Boschman to my right. Okay, first on the agenda is to approve the minutes from September 24th, 2024, the meeting we held at that time.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of the meeting.
Second.
We'll take this by unanimous consent. Okay. Okay. Next thing we have to approve is the remaining meeting dates for 2025. And they are as follows: Tuesday, February 25th, Tuesday, March 25th, Tuesday, April 29th, Tuesday, May 27th, Tuesday, June 24th, Tuesday, July 29th. There's no meeting in August. Then we come back in September on the 30th, Tuesday the 30th. And then we have our last meeting of the year on Tuesday, October 28th. There's no meeting in November, no meeting in December.
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second that motion.
And we'll approve by unanimous consent again. Next, we have the DPW update. We have DPW Commissioner Nick Erickson. He's going to tell us about all the wonderful things that DPW is accomplishing for the city.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I submitted a handout to you all, so that's what I'm going to go over in that order. It's broken out by division. As everyone knows, DPW is split into 6 divisions: water, wastewater, cemetery, parks and rec, engineering, and streets. So first up, we have water. So there's a number of water projects going on in the city right now. There's the supervisory control and data acquisition upgrade project that's nearly complete. That is a project to upgrade basically the brains of the water treatment plants in the city, and all of the pump stations and remote sites throughout our supply and distribution system. So that's nearly complete. Project's been ongoing for several years. We're happy to get that one over and done with. There were a lot of delays due to COVID and the chip shortage and some other things. We also recently completed the Boulder Drive water main replacement project. You've probably noticed that Boulder Drive has been paved. It came out really well. We left a few areas unpaved that we're going to need to dig up again within the next year or two for the combined sewer separation work that's happening in the Main Street Boulder Drive area. Happy to get that project done as well. The next project on the list here is the Main Street water main replacement project. That one is in progress. Polito and Sons Construction started some work on some of the valving configurations at the intersections around Main Street earlier this year, late last year. And we'll be continuing their work as soon as the weather turns a little bit more favorable. It's expected that that project will be completed by the end of the year 2025. It might spill over into 2026 depending on any unforeseens that we encounter beneath the ground, but right now we're anticipating trying to wrap it up before the end of this calendar year. The next project that's in progress is a rehabilitation project for the Meeting House Gatehouse. So Meeting House Pond is the terminal reservoir that feeds the regional treatment plant in Westminster. And this is a project to rehabilitate that gatehouse. It's been many, many years since that's even been touched. There's actually rotating screens inside the intake there, and that filters out ice and other debris from the intake that feeds into the regional treatment plant. So that whole system will be upgraded and replaced. So we're looking forward to that. It'll add some resiliency to that whole system, because right now that traveling screen is prone to failures, especially in the wintertime when it freezes up. So that's being done by a company called T-Ford. And I think they specialize in water pump stations and treatment plants, that type of thing. The next project we have is the Regional Water Treatment Plant Roof Replacement Project that is in progress and being conducted by Rockwell. That one is anticipated to be completed this calendar year also. Moving on to the next project, we have the Water Street Water Main Replacement Project. And this is a project to replace the water mains in between the two Water Street bridges that Mass DOT is planning to replace starting this calendar year. And that has actually been bid out as part of the Mass DOT bridge project and will be constructed by their contractor, but funded by the city. So right now, Mass DOT has put that project out to bid. I think they're working through the contracting process right now. I'm not sure exactly who the low bidder was. I tried to find that information a little earlier today and couldn't locate the contractor name. So I'm going to check in with Mass DOT on that one and see who the contractor is. We're expecting them to start at some point this winter. So we'll probably see them, have a pre-construction meeting and start coordinating with us, FPD, and other departments in the city pretty soon here. My guess is they want to get going and mobilized so that they're in full swing by the time construction season rolls around. And the final project that I've got on the list here for water is the Mare Meadow and Bickford Pump Station Rehab Project. This is a project to rehab a pump station over in Hubbardston, where we have Mare Meadow and Bickford reservoirs. These are two reservoirs that have really great water quality. We don't draw from them all the time, but mostly during periods of drought in the summertime. But they probably have the best water quality out of all of our reservoirs in the city. So we just recently bid that project out, and I think RH White was the low bidder, and we've recently gotten a recommendation to award from our consultant, Weston and Sampson, that we're working with. So we'll be working through the contracting phase for that project. That'll likely begin sometime in the spring and continue through the rest of this calendar year.
Okay, before you go on to wastewater, Councilor Cruz had a question, and then Councilor Boschman.
Of course.
Are you all set with this portion?
Yep, that's it for water. So any questions?
Yeah, so when we're talking about our treatment plants and our reservoirs and pump stations, is there any potential to tap into some of that Community Preservation Act funds? I know it's more work for infrastructure, but it's a very generalized sort of fund, and I know the city isn't doing it yet, but is there potential there?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it a little further. I know we talked about that a little bit for the Cemetary Mausoleum project.
Right.
But I'm not sure if funding from that would be eligible for the reservoirs, because it's technically the reservoirs are owned through the enterprise fund, and I'm not sure we could use that money on enterprise fund work. But I'd be happy to explore that concept, because there's no shortage of projects related to the reservoirs and dams that we need to start on at some point in the very near future.
Right, and I know that part of the CPA index allows you to dip into it for preservation of natural resources. So if this was something that we could fit into that model, and additional funds, that way, if we can dip into that funding from the state, and we don't have to dip into other funds from our own budget, which could maybe move to the roads or something like that. So
right.
I think it's definitely worth exploring to see just how inclusive that Community Preservation Act can be. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield the floor.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, just a real rough number, but just knowing all the 16 dams and reservoirs that the water department owns, there's probably $10 million worth of work that needs to be done to bring all those back up to like excellent condition. And we certainly don't have $10 million laying around, so.
No, we do not. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Boschman.
Nick, the last time I was here, a couple months ago, you talked about a major project on Route 2. Is that completed, the pipe and all that work?
So the issue there was a leak on two of the transmission mains that run underneath Route 2.
Right.
So we did fix the leak. So our water division, in combination with Hydrotech, came in and we completed that repair. We haven't replaced the mains that go underneath Route 2 yet. That's a very big project that we need to start planning for, but it's going to take quite some time to raise the funding necessary and then design and then construct that project. So that's a project that will likely have to factor into the next rate study that we do, because it's not built into the current rate structure.
Is that right?
I think if we were to do that, we would need to seriously consider the financial impact to the water division, and then basically conduct another rate study and see what we need to do to adjust the rates to fund that project.
I thought when you left here that day with all of us, we talked about you were going to try to see if Mass DOT would take some of the costs off because they put the Route 2 there.
Yep. So I did reach out to Mass DOT, and I had a few conversations with some folks over there. So they are not willing to fund any sort of water project. They've basically told us that they're the review agency, but they won't offer any assistance financially or construction-wise to actually get that project done. So if we want to do it, we have to design it. We have to design it in accordance with their standards, which means some sort of a trenchless install where we're not open cutting across Route 2 and shutting down the highway. And that's what causes it to be really, really expensive, because we've got to figure out a way to basically horizontally directional drill or some other trenchless method to get underneath the highway and install those water mains.
Oh, like bore it out?
Yeah, like a jack and bore method, or they make horizontal directional drills that have GPS guidance for the drilling head, so you can actually just kind of program in where you want that drill head to go, and it follows a certain alignment. So that's something where we're still in the very early stages of conceptualizing that. At some point, we'll need to come up with a strategy for the design and the funding and then the construction.
Now, with the work that you did on that pipe, and that'd be my final question because it's all over with anyway, what did you do? Did you put a liner inside where it's leaking? Is that what you did, like you did on some of the roads in Fitchburg? They put a steam in on some of the water mains up in my ward. I remember seeing steam coming out of the hose there. So
we've used that technique that you're talking about. That's a cured in place liner for typically sewer or drain pipes. Oh. We don't really use that on the water side. There is a way to do lining of water mains, but we haven't really done it in the city of Fitchburg. I've heard of other communities doing it, so it's worth exploring. But what we did to fix that leak, because it was on the pipe just before you get to Route 2, so we actually had access to right where the leak was. We excavated down, found the leaking pipe, and then replaced that section. And then we had Hydrotech install a valve there to help us with all that.
Okay, I yield the floor.
Okay.
Thank you, Council Boschman.
All right.
Commissioner Erickson, you want to continue with wastewater?
Yep, so we'll go on to the wastewater division. So wastewater is working through, as you probably know, some combined sewer separation work. So the CSO 10 project, which is the area that's north and west of Main Street, that is nearly complete. Polito and Sons Construction is working on that. The last few punch list items will be complete in the spring, along with paving that's still outstanding. So just off the top of my head, I believe View Street and Upper Bond and a few other roads that were impacted by that work will be paved in the springtime. Then we've also started the CSO 324583 separation rehabilitation project. GVC Construction won that bid. We've been working with them to get started. They've started doing some of the point repair work in the Mechanic Street and Elm Street area. And they'll continue doing that along with trenchless lining work. So that's similar to what Councilor Boschman just mentioned, where they actually install a liner along the sewer main underground, and it cures in place with the steam and everything that comes out. So they'll be working on that over the winter, try to get that squared away before the construction season starts, and then they'll start their heavy excavation work come springtime once the weather turns a little bit more favorable. That project is anticipated to go into 2026, so it'll take this construction plus next construction season. And then we've got the East Wastewater Treatment Facility Lab and Control Room upgrade project that's in progress. RH White is the contractor on that job. This was actually supposed to be finished sometime in March, but they ran into some delays because they found asbestos, and that has set the project back a few months. So we're looking at probably more like a mid-2025 completion date on that one. We're also working through the East Wastewater Treatment Facility automation study. Arcadis is working on that for us, and the goal there is to automate certain processes in the plant so that we don't have to have 24/7, 365 staffing. That'll help us with some of the staffing shortages that we're experiencing currently. And the final project on the list here for wastewater is the anaerobic digester facility at the West Wastewater Treatment Facility. As you are all probably aware, we put out an RFP. We received one response to that RFP from a company called Rollstone Renewable Energy Incorporated. And right now we are waiting on Rollstone Renewable Energy to square away their financing before the project moves forward. So they're working with another company called Engie, and Engie has recently indicated that they're voting to move forward with the preliminary analysis to decide if they want to give Rollstone Renewable a go or a no-go. So that's taken a long time, and the project's on hold until they get their funding squared away, but we're hopeful that this company, Engie, financially backs the project for Rollstone Renewable Energy. Once we get good word that they have backed that project financially, then we'll be able to move forward with permitting and then eventually construction. So that's it for wastewater. Happy to answer any questions before we move on.
Council Boschman?
On that digestive place, is that the same company that gave a presentation here a couple of months ago, 8 months ago?
Correct.
A year ago? It is.
Yep. So that gentleman that was giving that presentation, his name is Tom Bintz, and he's the CEO of Rollstone Renewable Energy. And I believe that is just kind of a shell entity that was formed as a respondent to the RFP, and it includes a few different sub-entities within that RRE incorporation.
Okay, now, Mike, I want to go back to the CSOs, those things. We're changing the pipes to make a separation from soil to water and all that. My question is, are we putting big enough pipes in there with climate change that will handle anything? If we get a 4-inch rainstorm one day and the next day we get another 6-inch rainstorm, that it can absorb it and we won't have flooding in the streets and that?
So we are. Historically in the city, when the combined sewers have been separated, we didn't take into account resiliency, but starting with the CSO 10 project, actually, let me back up. Starting with the Clarendon Street and Water Street / Walnut Street combined sewer separation project, what we did is we started using the year 2070 climate data as a way to beef up the resiliency for all the stormwater pipes that are going in the ground. So what would have been like a 15-inch pipe, for example, gets upsized to like a 30-inch pipe, and I'm just using hypothetical examples.
Right.
So what you'll see as a result of the CSO 10 project is a 60-inch outfall that's installed next to the River Street Bridge that's being reconstructed right now by Northern Construction. So we've done all the work up to a manhole that's right adjacent to the bridge, and DOT will actually be installing the final run of pipe from that manhole into the river as part of their bridge project. And then as part of the CSO 324583 project, we'll be installing additional upsized drainage infrastructure that discharges to the river over near 166 Boulder Drive, the FRA campus over there, the former GE building. So there'll be a new 60-inch outfall that comes out between the GE building and the Putnam Street Bridge, and then there'll be another outfall. I want to say it's a 24-inch over on the other side of the building across from Wood Place.
Okay, and my final question, then you can have the floor. My final, are we going to do like we did on Chestnut Street and Main Street, put those little, what do you call those things, Bernie? They catch the water?
Those are the green infrastructure
green
installations
infrastructure.
to handle some of the stormwater. So those two were installed as pilots. The funding for the design of those came from the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant Program.
Yeah.
And I like the concept because they treat stormwater runoff in a more environmentally friendly way than traditional pipe systems, where you're just collecting the water and sending it right to the river. Instead, you're promoting infiltration and uptake of nutrients with plants and all that. The only issue that I'm seeing so far, based on those two installations, is the maintenance issue.
Right.
So we've got really limited resources at DPW, but these two installations require frequent landscaping, and you got to check in after really large rainstorms and make sure they don't wash out. And that, to me, really makes it not viable for the city of Fitchburg at the current time. So we've still got designs that have been developed, but we're contemplating whether we actually want to build those or not, just because of that ongoing maintenance need. And I think that, coupled with the city's current financial situation, it's not a good combination right now. So I like the concept behind them, but I think we have to be really careful about actually building those until we're able to actually make them sustainable.
Because I'm glad you brought that up, because I drive by them every day, and I look at it and it says, oh, it's a mess. You get trash in there and everything.
Yeah, it's
Like
the trash, the
but
weeds
rice,
grow.
right.
Right.
So I yield the floor, but I just want to make that clear, because I know how I feel about this project. If it costs me money, no. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I get to Councilor Cruz, I wanted to ask about the Nashua River Watershed Association, the grant they got from the EPA. Have they made a decision on where they might implement their projects?
I don't think so. So they've actually been waiting on me to schedule a meeting and kind of talk through some of that stuff. And I just haven't had the opportunity to meet with them yet. So that's waiting on me. I need to set some time aside and meet with their staff and kind of go over all the concepts that were discussed during the public input sessions and give our thoughts on some of the ideas.
As Councilor Boschman and I attended one of their meetings, and we brought up the maintenance of some of their projects, and I hope they took that into consideration.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that me and our engineering division will stress when we do meet with them is the ongoing need for extra maintenance above and beyond traditional catch basins and pipe systems.
That's right.
Right.
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments of Councilor Boschman. As a time for climate change, we've had 2 earthquakes in the last 2 days. It's a conversation we should be having. I appreciate the long-term thought process going into this. My only question for myself and for people watching, you mentioned a company, NG, initially financing this rollstone company to perform the work. For ratepayers, is it essentially the company provides the initial capital that the second company doesn't have? They invest in that work, the work is completed, and then that company pays the work back once they get it from us. Is that essentially, correct me if I'm missing a step, but is that alleviating kind of our initial risk on big projects like this?
It is. It's the project is to design, build, and then operate the facility. So there's no upfront capital that's being invested by the city other than our expenses to make sure that the process goes smoothly, and we have some consultants that are looking at it from a legal perspective and then from an engineering perspective to make sure that we're getting what we're signing up for, essentially. But aside from that, I think the method that we've chosen to design, build, operate, and put it out as an RFP as such eliminates the risk and exposure on the city's end, because ultimately it's on that company, RRE, to put up the capital, design the project, work through the permitting and all that, and then get it built and then operate it for a period of years. The city's, of course, going to help with permitting, because that's going to require a lot of community input, community input sessions and guidance from the city and DPW and other city departments.
That's good to hear, though. I know that in the current system that we have to take the lowest bidder on a lot of projects, and even when we get one bidder, it's good to hear that there's some contingencies in place, because I know in the past we've been left with some work that wasn't up to the standards that we should have in the city, so it's good to hear. Right,
and I think the RFP process gives the city latitude to select the most advantageous proposal versus the lowest bidder. So if there's anything that is good for the city being able to select what it really wants and needs, it's that process which we've gone through. We only had one proposal, but we did evaluate that pretty thoroughly according to a preset criteria that we had drafted prior to issuing the RFP, and they met all of the criteria and then some. So the company that we're getting involved with knows what they're doing, and if we can get this off the ground, I don't foresee any challenges or issues with them.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yield the floor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Good one.
question. I got one question on that. If you remember, you went to DPW Commissioner, I think it was the Summer Street, Bartell Street. We had to give it to the lowest bidder, and then the lowest bidder in return charges us for everything underneath the sun, because this wasn't on the contract, or you have to pay for that. And excuse my French, I won't say it in front. With the big S word, they did a heck of a lousy job down there on Bartow Street. There was a lot of problems with the whole thing, because we took the lowest bidder and we ended up getting stuck. And I think it was underneath Joe. I think his name was Joe then, if I'm not mistaken. He left here and then Jeff came in after him.
So I think that was the CSS 4D Combined Sewer Separation Project, and that was that whole area, Summer Street, Bartell Street.
Right.
I think there was a pipe installed on John Fitch, and that whole area down towards Lunenburg, further towards Kings Corner. So the contractor on that was Rivoli. Rivoli was the low bidder. They're notorious for doing that with projects. They're what we call change order sharks, basically. So they'll look for opportunities within a contract to expose a loophole and try to get a change order issued to basically pad their wallets. In this case, I think they had seen some inconsistencies with the disposal of excavation material or something like that. From what I understand, they whacked us with like $1 million change order before a shovel even went into the ground. And then through the construction progress, they had issues with some homes being flooded out and poor bypass pumping and all that. So that contractor, I think we have, based on their performance in that project, I think we have the legal grounds to throw out any bids that we get from them for combined sewer separation work. But that's my understanding of what happened with that project. And you're right, that was back when I think Joe Jordan was here. Jeff at the time was working in the civil engineer role. After Joe Jordan retired or moved on, Jeff took the job as deputy commissioner of wastewater. But that project, the 4D project, was wrapping up, I think by the time Tony Maressa took the civil engineer role. And then it was fully completed by the time that I started with the city as the civil engineer. But I do have all their files. There's a few other issues that we've noticed with that project. So that drain line that goes down Lunenburg Street from Bowtell Street to the Baker Brook, right where the bridge is, that's undersized. And when they did the combined sewer separation work, instead of installing new drainage infrastructure, they tied all the drainage into that already undersized drain line. And that's why we have flooding issues on that section of Lunenburg Street. During really heavy rains, sometimes the drain manholes will pop off right where it transitions from a slope to flat. I think it's around like Perkins Street or Garland Street, right near the Dippin' Donuts.
Yeah.
And that's directly a result of that project. And I don't necessarily fault Rivoli for that. I think that was an engineering design issue. I blame Wright Pierce for that, who was our consulting engineer at the time.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're getting off topic a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. I just brought that up, that's all. Thank you, I yield the floor.
All right. Any other questions on wastewater? All right. So moving on to the cemetery division. So it's tough to do work in the cemeteries in January, but we did complete a drainage upgrade in section Q in the fall, just before the cold weather hit. So that's the section that's right adjacent to Electric Ave, kind of across the street from Cumberland Farms, if you can picture that area. So we installed a perforated drain pipe to help intercept the groundwater there and try to dewater that area of the cemetery. And we're doing a similar thing in the Memorial Gardens area. So the Memorial Gardens area is that new section that is adjacent to the wall that we expanded across from Memorial Middle School. So we had Lazaro do some drainage work there this past fall. There's a little bit more work that'll happen in the spring. And then we'll also be paving the pathways in the Memorial Gardens section in the spring. So that funding has already been allocated. That was part of that whole expansion effort. So the remaining funds will be used for those drainage upgrades and then the pathway paving. And Lazaro will be doing both of those projects come springtime. And then we have the Forest Hill Abbey Mausoleum renovation project. Right now that project is on hold because of the limited availability of funding. So as you all know, we went through a conceptual design phase to come up with the approximate scope of work that's needed for the repairs and the associated cost. The price tag was around $3 million to do everything soup to nuts. We don't have $3 million, so we've worked on a revised scope that's a little bit less involved and focuses just on the exterior building envelope and the real issues that are causing the damage there. And the number for that is a little over $1 million. So right now we're underway with some fundraising efforts with the assistance of Councilor Cragen and some of the cemetery trustees to try and raise the money for that critical scope of work, that $1 million-ish scope of work. So that's what I've got for cemeteries. Any questions on that?
And we do have a Friends of the Fitchburg Cemetery where we do have a fund where people can make donations.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Councilor Schultz. So we do have Friends of, I think it's Friends of Fitchburg Cemeteries, right?
Exactly what it is, yeah.
So if anyone's interested in talking about this project or making a donation, I would suggest that they reach out to either Councillor Cragen, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Councillor Schultz, or any one of the cemetery trustees or the superintendent of cemeteries, Jacqueline Poirier. They can point you in the right direction.
Okay. Any questions?
For me.
No, I yield the floor.
Okay.
All right, moving on to Parks and Rec. So just before the cold weather really set in, we started a project to replace the playground equipment at Mama Fitz and Park Hill Playgrounds. So Mama Fitz is in Green Street Park, right off of North Street. Park Hill is obviously over at Park Hill. So the DPW is able to get the new play equipment installed there and then get new safety fiber installed. So those are both operational. Come springtime, there's a few other renovations that'll happen. We'll be redoing some of the concrete pathways and stuff like that, just to freshen up those two playgrounds. So we're looking forward to getting that work done. We've got our new tree contractor on board that's working through our backlog of trees that need to be cut and trimmed. This week and next week, he's making a big push to try to get ahead of a lot of that. So if you've got any tree issues, please submit a C-Click fix. Reach out to myself or James Bunnell, who's the Director of Parks and Recreation and also the tree warden. And then the Moran Field parking lot paving. We were hoping to get that in the fall before the cold weather really set in, but that looks like it is going to have to wait until spring. So that was a free cash appropriation from a few years ago that we're looking to get that paved with. So Lazaro is our current on-call paving contractor. They've been given that scope of work. They've quoted it, and we're just waiting for good weather to get them going. Any questions on Parks and Rec?
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the Moran Field parking lot, we had some issues in the past, fairly recently, regarding some unwanted activity in that area. Did we settle if we were going to do the fence yet that we could put up there and protect that, all that new area, so that we keep it spray paint free and free of needing the police down there?
Yeah, so as part of that whole parking lot project, the goal is to either install bollards or place really large boulders right along the backside of the pavement to prevent anyone from driving onto the field or doing anything that we don't want them to do over there.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Okay. Councilor Boschman, you all set?
No, it's okay.
Yep.
Okay, and one other thing I wanted to mention, walking passes are available for the indoor track over at Fitchburg State, and those are available through the Parks and Rec office at City Hall.
Good to know. Thank you.
So moving on to the engineering division, engineering's working on conservation and planning board reviews and inspections. That's an ongoing item. There's ongoing conservation and planning meetings every month, and engineering provides assistance with those. Right now, we are in our non-emergency excavation moratorium period, so street opening and trench permits are limited except for emergencies. It's tough to dig right now. It's too cold to really do anything. It's too cold to properly compact, and it's too cold to properly pave. So we're limiting that to emergencies, and then we also have our ongoing streetlight repairs. If we have streetlights out in the city, we encourage residents to submit a C-Click fix report, and that will be taken care of as quickly as we're able. I believe our streetlight repair contract expires this year, so we'll be looking to put that out to bid fairly soon. We've also got 3 bridge projects going on in the city. The River Street Bridge project, which is being constructed by Northern Construction through Mass DOT, that is ongoing. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to check out that site, but right now they have one half of the bridge completely demolished, which is kind of neat to see. You can see right down into the river. They've got a temporary utility bridge installed, and they're working to get that completed, and then they'll swap, and the traffic will be diverted to the new section of bridge. They'll demolish the section that's currently being driven over, and then reconstruct that section. So kind of a cool approach. I'd encourage anyone to walk down there and check it out if you have any time. Circle Street Bridge has been constructed and is complete. It's the nicest bridge in the city right now. So I'd encourage people to check that one out too. And then the Water Street Bridges project, which is also being constructed through Mass DOT. Mass DOT has bid the project out, and we're waiting on the contract award. I don't know off the top of my head who that low bidder is, but part of that project will include the Water Street water main replacement between the two bridges that we discussed earlier in the Water Division section update. And then for paving, this is the same list that you saw back in September during our last meeting, just with kind of a status update of where each of these projects are. So Clarendon Street has been put in binder. In the springtime, they'll be installing sidewalks and doing final pave. Engineering is right now working with the contractor to finalize quantities for granite curbing so that we can order it and get it delivered ahead of the construction work in the spring. Electric Avenue is planned in the spring, along with Airport Road. Marshall Road from Skyview to Fisher has been complete, and we were actually able to pave the entirety of Marshall Road due to the generous donation of Hollis Hills Farms trucking for our contractor. Pearl Street, Klondike to the town line in the spring. Klondike Ave, Lunenburg to Pearl, springtime. Fairbanks Street from South Street to Monroe will be done in the spring. Monroe Street will be done in the spring, along with Birch Street, Game On Way, Victoria Lane, and Roper Road, a section of Ashby West Road, Nichols Road, and then we have the Mass DOT 31 and 2A repaving project. So Mass DOT's contractor has paved from over by the West Plant all the way to the intersection of Westminster Street and well, it's basically right at the British American Club. There's no good intersection there to really use the limit of what's been done, but they've done that section. They'll have to do the final line striping come springtime, and then they'll pick back up where they left off and pave from there down to the roundabout. And we're very much looking forward to get that done because that is a section there right after you come off of River Street onto Westminster Street where the manholes have sunken into the ground like 6 inches to 8 inches, and it's really terrible to drive on. So looking forward to getting that done. Engineering is also working on providing grant assistance. There's a number of grant opportunities that we're pursuing, including MVP grants, Safe Routes to School grants, and some others. And we're working on bidding out our on-call construction contracts for water and then sewer and drain. Those are currently out to bid. We held a pre-construction meeting for the sewer and drain one on Friday. So we're looking forward to getting 2 contractors on board for that so that when we do have issues with our water system or our sewer drain systems, we can hire these contractors to come in and get the work done without having to put out a formal procurement again, which is super helpful for emergency work such as the leaking Route 2 water mains that we were talking about earlier. So that's it for engineering. I'm sure there's a few things I missed because they work on a lot of different stuff, but any questions on that?
Council Bosch.
Nick, 2 things. Number 1, on the construction and the bridge work done in the city of Fitchburg, whether it be River Street, Circle Street, Water Street, Kimball Street, or Laurel Street, is it going to take a long time, like we had to wait for Circle Street, a small bridge with no traffic whatsoever, took well over a year, over 2 years?
I think that one took about 2-ish years, yeah, 1.5 to 2 years. So right now, River Street is programmed to be a 3.5-year project, and I believe the Water Street Bridges project is programmed to be 2.5 years. I could be wrong about that, but they are extended duration projects. So it's going to be really difficult to get around the city for a little while between all these 2 bridge projects. So with the Water Street Bridges, they're planning to leave 1 travel lane open in both directions. So it's not like we'll have a complete shutdown like we see on the River Street Bridge, but it is going to slow traffic down moving through that area for sure.
Yeah, they're going to do what they did on Lunenburg down by Mackey's, where they put a light up, and you stop, and then what the green goes, and the Alpers are way up. Okay, I understand.
They'll do that for the bridge over the Nashua River. For the bridge over the railroad tracks and Boulder Drive, they're going to do similar to the River Street Bridge, where they have all the traffic on one side and they work, and then they shift it over to the new section and work on the other side.
Okay.
But they'll be keeping 1 lane in both directions open during that process.
And we are going to do coming to Main Street from Market Basket. That's going to be 3 lanes on one side. 1 to go down Summer Street and 2 to take a left or go up Day Street. And
Yes, that's my understanding, unless
And-
it's changed, but I don't think it has.
my final, one more question after this. So when we do that bridge, can we change the design and the process where people are going up Main Street, instead of being that right lane, they can merge left like they did up the Upper Common, where they come in, they can merge left to go up Main Street too, instead of having one big line going all the way down to Summer Street?
Oh, you're talking about going westbound
Yeah,
as you
westbound.
approach the intersection?
Yeah.
I'll have to double check the design plans there. I know that's a bottleneck, and it prevents people from taking that left onto Boulder Drive, really, if there's a long queue of cars. And overall, it's problematic, but I think the layout there is challenging, because you really need a long lane for that left turn lane over the bridge, and I don't think we have the space there to provide adequate queuing volume.
No, you get me wrong. I'm talking about if they come in over from Market Basket onto the bridge and you take a left, there's 2 lanes. There's one that can go up Blossom Street.
Oh, okay.
And there's one to go up Main Street.
Yep.
Well, I really believe that there should be a yield sign where they merge. They can come, you can either be in either lane, instead of having somebody yearly on the horn because you're out of town and you're in the wrong lane and they don't want to let you in.
I see what you're saying.
It's like they did up the Upper Common here. It used to be you had to go around, but an engineer from Boston said, hey, that's wrong. You should be able to merge to go over that headed towards Clegon.
Yeah, we can, I don't know if that'll be done as part of the bridge project, but I'd like to look at that and see what we can do to improve that, because that's between, that whole Blossom Street intersection with Main Street is challenging, not only just from that direction where you've got to merge or shift lanes, but also coming off of Blossom and taking that left onto Main Street. That backs up quite a bit, so I think we got to give that a little more study and figure out what we can do there.
And my final question, on the street light repairs, it's been well over 10 years that we implemented this program with the city of Pittsburgh bought. The designs have changed, the quality is better, new marketing out there, and the electricity cost is done. Are we thinking about every year proceeding to take, instead of fixing them, replacing them with something newer and better designs? So this way here, we won't have a thing that's 25 years old and it's going to cost us X amount of money just to get the parts, where we're changing every 10 years or 15.
So we've kind of been doing that ongoing, because there'll be models of fixtures that become obsolete and are no longer available. And then we've got to shift to the newer models that are more efficient and all that. So we've been doing that over years. As things get phased out, we phase in new models of LED fixtures and all that. But at the end of the day, they're all LEDs and they're all much lower wattage than the old incandescents. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. So I yield the floor.
Thank you, Council Boishman. Council Cruz, are you set?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, I'm excited to see Electric Ave on slate for the spring. I know that we met with Mayor Squally and Director Murphy to discuss some traffic improvements recently, and we were able to do those, so I'm excited to see the effects of that. I know a lot of constituents reached out to me with concerns, so we're looking forward to that, and I hope those watching enjoy the avenues that we've taken. And I just want to have one note regarding that sort of bottleneck at the Water Street Bridge in Blossom. I think it's important to remember, and I know a lot of people have been frustrated by it, but the design of two-way Main was intended to slow traffic and to prioritize public safety and pedestrians, and to build a more vibrant downtown in that respect. So as we work through these kinks, it's important to remember that the goal was not to prioritize speedy traffic through downtown. So I know that there's been some confusion that it would be better for traffic and it would be quicker, but that wasn't the goal of two-way Main and sort of the effects that you're seeing now. It was to increase pedestrian safety and make it more vibrant downtown. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll the floor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
I have one question about that list of Monroe Street. We were working on trying to widen Monroe Street because of the fact that, it's not South Street Elementary any longer, it's
Right.
South Street Preschool. So has there been any progress with the school department as far as taking that old fence down and widening Monroe Street?
I still think there's some outstanding work that needs to be done there before we go ahead and pave it. But as part of that whole paving effort, I want Lazaro to just take care of that whole issue and do the widening that we need there. So whether that means we've got to get in there as DPW and just get it done prior to the work happening, or if school department has some room in their schedule come springtime to do that. We want to make sure that that's widened like it was supposed to be as part of the paving effort. So
Yeah,
that's the
I think
goal.
that you wouldn't want to pave it until you can widen that street, because it is too narrow for cars going in and out.
Yeah, it's too narrow, and part of the widening is going to involve a little excavation, installing graded base, and then a few inches of extra asphalt above and beyond what we're doing over on the actual roadway. So we'll definitely make sure to get that incorporated into Lazaro's scope of work come springtime.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Okay, one more question.
One more question.
On the DPW update?
On the DPW update, it's
Okay.
just to rectify what it said. The whole purpose of us turning to Main Street was to make it slower. Yes, I agree with you 100%, Councilor. But the whole purpose of changing Main Street wasn't to cause a backup and a climate control and having environmental issues at the same time. You can achieve everything you want to achieve if we use a little common sense and be courteous and let people pull in and go in that way. This way you don't have an argument on the street and people leaning on a horn and then somebody stopping on Main Street and getting out and having a fight. Just like you did up the Upper Common, it works very fine, and it eliminates a lot of backup traffic where you don't have smog and smoke and everything else from cars. So that's why I brought it up to them. It should be fixed. It's not right. It's not right the way it is, and we're causing hardship in the city of Fitchburg. That's what this is going to be resolved, and it should be resolved before we even do the Lunenburg down here in Lunenburg. We should fix that problem. Thank you very much, Nick. I know you didn't want to say nothing, so I spoke for you.
Councilor Cruz, you got one more thought?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I completely agree with Councilor Boschman. We should keep working to fix these what's happened, the effects of what's happened, the unwanted effects. We should keep working. But I would encourage, I don't know how Commissioner Erickson feels about you speaking for him, but I don't know how I would feel about that myself. So, but I'll leave it at that. I yield the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are we all set, Commissioner Erickson, on the updates?
All set on that division, just
Okay.
real quick, streets division. So with the frozen ground, ideal time to maintain the detention bonds in the city. These are stormwater best management practices like infiltration basins, detention basins, things like that that handle stormwater runoff from some of our newer developments. Most of these were put in 30, 20, 10 years ago and haven't been maintained once since they were constructed. So we're making an effort to start maintaining these things. And with the ground frozen, we're not dealing with mud and, rutting and all that stuff. So streets division's ongoing with that. There's about 30 plus of those in the city that we're trying to take care of. We're also trying to work through stump removals. Now's a good time to do it because there's not a lot else we can do on the streets. We're pothole patching and putting down hot mix and cold patch, but stump removals are a good thing to do right now too while we're relatively slow. We covered pothole patching. Then the last is snow and ice. That's an ongoing thing this winter, and we've got a snowstorm coming in tonight. Forecast right now is 3 to 5 inches. So we issued a parking ban, and we're hopeful that we don't get as much as they're forecasted.
Well, thank you for the update on the stump removals, and I thank you for, I noticed that there were 2 taken care of on Milk Street just recently.
Yep.
So that is an ongoing thing, something that can be done this time of year.
Yeah, and I think we really need to look at an ordinance change maybe to require Unitil to remove stumps as part of their tree cutting program too, but that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think Councilor Boschman might be supportive of that.
Yes.
I was supportive. They asked me to take it away. I put a petition in.
Yeah.
They told me because they raised the cost of everything. That's the reason why they didn't. That's why they asked me to take it away. The homeowner would be paying, the ratepayer would pay more money then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council Boschman.
You're welcome.
And we'll move on to help petitions for review. We only have one. It's 16824, Councilor Andrew Kuchar, on behalf of Paulo Fritz, to investigate water runoff from the property of 160 Stickney Road. An apron and berm should be placed to stop the water intrusion, to stop the damage to the property, and that was held at the 9/24/24 meeting. And I don't know if Commissioner Erickson.
So following the last meeting, we did do some additional work up there to landscape behind the berm that was installed for the adjacent property per a different petition. We noted that there's a retaining wall on Paulo Fritz's property. It's dry stacked field stone, It doesn't appear that there's any sort of a geotextile liner or crushed stone or anything like you'd expect behind a dry stacked wall like that. So what we're seeing is a lot of sediment migration through the wall, which is causing some of the erosion issues that are happening there. There's nothing we can really do right now. We're not going to go out and pave a berm in January. So my recommendation would be to hold on this one for at least another month. Maybe hold on until springtime when we get some more rain and we can actually observe how the water's flowing and all that, which we really haven't had an opportunity to do since the last meeting and the last little bit of work was completed out there.
I make a motion, we hold this to April.
April? You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we will hold that by unanimous consent, and that concludes our
I make a motion, we adjourn.
business of the day. The next Public Works Committee meeting will be held on February 25th, Tuesday, February 25th at 5 o'clock right here in the Legislative Building.
Yep.
So we are adjourned.
Thank you,
All right.
Bernie.